Trinity Jubanger. How's it going?
This is good. How are you?
I'm not bad.
Geo, which is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, I am the one, but in a very
You are the one.
specific niche field.
And location.
Yeah, at a particular time, at a particular environment, in a particular location, I am the one.
You are the one.
Hence,
But other than
Geo.
that, no. Geo.
No,
So
exactly.
good.
What's been happening? You had a new class you started yesterday, right?
I did indeed. It was it was really good. It's been a big week because I've been quite nervous about it and building up to it. But the actual class was brilliant. It was for basically this big platform, and there was 300 people in the class yesterday, which was amazing.
That is a hefty number of people.
Isn't it?
300.
Yeah, 300 people. But what it is like it's a Zoom. It's all operated through Zoom, so that's how you can imagine how it works, and you just sort of see the numbers go up. But when you're teaching, you're not really looking at that. You're not really paying attention to that. But I'd heard that the numbers were around that. And I think that was what was making me really nervous through the week. It's like, oh, that's a lot of people. Oh, that's a lot of people to teach to. And my mum was like, what's the problem? You've performed to way more people than that in your time. And I was like, I don't know. This is different. It's because that was when I was a musician, and that was a while ago. And this is me teaching, and I've got to relay information and teach to 300 people, and that's a new experience for me. I'd never done that before. So, and you're doing it.
Can you imagine filling out a room? Like, you can't see them because they're all in Zoom.
Yeah.
But like, imagine the size of the room that you need to fill that out.
But that's the bizarre thing, isn't it? It's like on Zoom, you're teaching. Essentially, I'm teaching in my studio here, and you're teaching in your house, I'm in my garden, but yet you're reaching 300 people all over the country. And it was a really surreal experience, but I really enjoyed it at the same time. It was like, how cool is this? I get to relay all this information that you and I talk about, and we teach people to move. I get to give this to people, and that was really cool. So the nerves went, and this is the thing with me. When I do performances, I get really freaked out for a good week before, and I really fret, and I'm so nervous, I'm so stressed, I'm very anxious. But then when it comes to it, you switch on and you do it, and that's what happened. And you don't know that that's going to happen, but it does generally happen.
Yeah, cool. This is a good thing to talk about, right? Like performance anxiety, stress, leading up to, like, it could be a big event, but it's just like general as well. So, like, you got a lot of experience in being anxious and being stressed for a particular performance. What's your how do you, so those nerves in the course of the week, like, what are you doing to deal with them? How do you deal with that?
So I'll be honest with you, this week I wasn't dealing with it very well. I think because I wasn't really registering it this week. I just felt at the beginning of the week I was very agitated. I was forgetting stuff. I was dropping the ball. Like, I forgot to send out some emails. I forgot another thing. Like, for example, as well, silly thing, it's like I put some water on to boil some eggs. The water was boiling, but I hadn't put the eggs in. Do you know what I mean? So I was really preoccupied with thinking about this stuff. And I wasn't prepared, and then suddenly I realized, I was like, oh, okay, I'm a little bit anxious. I'm a lot anxious. I'm a lot stressed. Let's do some stuff around this. So what I tend to do, and what's really important from my days of being a musician, is it's preparation. It's being massively prepared for what you're about to do. Obviously, this is a little bit different because it's a class, but just writing out what you're going to teach in the class, so that you have an idea. So your brain, when you stand on stage, when you're doing something, and when I used to stand on stage, your brain goes to mush in a way. For the first few moments, you're like, oh, and you don't know what, where, how, and where you're supposed to look and what you're supposed to do. And it's phenomenally nerve-wracking. So if you've practiced enough, if you've taken the time to know what you're doing, that's really important. But also putting yourself in this situation over and over again. So, for example, when I was doing the class on Saturday, I just came into my studio a few times, and literally rehearsed what I was going to start saying and how I was going to start the class and how it was going to go. So I do a lot of visualization around it. It's like I put myself in the position a lot of the time, but then I don't know if it's a weird thing, but I also toggle backwards and forwards between what I think they're seeing and what I'm seeing and what the audience is seeing and how they feel and what I'm seeing. So it's almost like I put myself in different positions and how some are going to feel.
Like different positions in the room?
No. Like, I suppose it's like I try and imagine, it sounds really weird, but I try and imagine someone's living room and what it looks like to see me in their screen. I mean, when I was doing it on stage, it would be like, what do I look like from this point in the audience? And it's almost like you try and expand your perspective of what you're trying to do so that it doesn't freak you out when you're doing it. You have almost like this, I'm trying to think of it like, it's like you're trying to create more vision within what you're seeing, so it doesn't make you really nervous. So I just kind of put myself in lots of people's positions so that I have like a collective vision, if you like. That's the only way I can try and explain it.
Interesting.
And it helps me because then when for example, yesterday when everyone started popping up on the screen and you can literally just see pages and pages. I'm sure everyone's used Zoom, but when you have lots of people come into a meeting, I mean, it literally starts going into pages and pages and pages and pages. I think I had about 7 or 8 pages of just people. Yeah. And it is weird because you're teaching them, you can see them doing everything. And it was a beautiful thing as well, I have to say. Just watching everyone take my direction and do stuff with it. It was a pretty cool thing. But yes, the stress and anxiety around it was, excuse me, it was big. But I think things I do is I just make sure I get quality sleep. And even though I wasn't sleeping that well this week, I just make sure that I go to bed at the same time. I do a relaxation, I do some breathing, and I just calm my system down as much as I can so that I am as prepared as I can be in that stressful moment.
Yeah, cool. And then what's your relationship with anxiety? Like if anxiety was a person, how would you describe your relationship to it?
It's that annoying person there in the background that you're like, oh, not you again. Do you know? And I, as a musician, I have suffered horribly with panic attacks. And what's really interesting about them is they would start a few weeks before any big performance, and they would start around the rehearsal time. I'd start to feel very, very sick, very breathless. I couldn't get a full breath in. And so it would start around the rehearsals. But then what started to happen as well is that they also started to come on and things like when I was on a bus or when I was on a train. So then I started to get this association between having a panic attack and being on a train. And then so it started to come into maybe being a bit claustrophobic. So that then it almost takes on this bigger role within your life. And it's something that I've had to work really, really hard to try and get away from. I've had lots of hypnotherapy. I've had lots of things like cognitive behavioral therapy. I've done loads of breath work. But one of the biggest things that I've done that's really helped with my anxiety is to learn how to breathe properly. So learn that you actually need to stretch the muscles around your center, because I was getting my breath from my shoulders and my chest, and that was having an even worse effect on my anxiety. And then as soon as I learned how to, for example, release my diaphragm, which is something that you and I teach, where you learn to release a restricted part of your diaphragm. When I learned how to do that and then to breathe into my sides of my ribs laterally, that's when the panic attacks actually started to dial down quite substantially. So power to learning.
Just a reminder to anyone who doesn't know what the diaphragm is. Diaphragm is that sheet muscle, which is the primary powerful breathing muscle. So you learn to control that. You you get a lot of benefits, and we could talk about them for days and days, but this is one of them,
Absolutely.
dealing with
Yeah.
anxiety. Yeah.
Because when you have anxiety, and I know this from experience of over the years, people are like, just breathe, just deep breaths.
Yeah.
And it's like, but if you're not
It's shit
taking
advice. It's like, yeah, cool,
it,
okay, I'm doing that, but it's not
yeah,
helping.
I
Yeah.
think it's sound advice, but it's from people that don't know how to breathe well. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, just take a deep breath. Like even therapists are like, you just gotta breathe deeply and take slow breaths. But it's like,
Yeah.
and they don't know the anatomy of breathing. So it's like when you actually learn the anatomy of breathing and you know and understand how to breathe well, suddenly, I mean, it literally blew my head off when I learned that. It was like, why hasn't
Literally.
anyone taught this to me? I mean, it did. Did I say
Yeah.
that?
Literally blew my head. Like, oh, Jesus. So I'm not looking at the real Jude here. You've done some sort of transplant going on. Yeah.
It's a no, it didn't literally blow my head off. It amazed
Yeah.
me, and and
Hilarious.
I know, silly, and it just it suddenly made sense. What everyone was saying, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. It's like if your deep breath feels lousy and everyone's telling you to calm down by taking deep breaths, and it's making you hyperventilate more because they don't know how to teach you how to take a deep breath,
Exactly.
you're not going to feel better. Whereas now, and like we could totally teach people with stress and anxiety how to calm themselves down through the breathing anatomy that we know. I mean, I wish I knew again what I know now back then when I was a musician. The amount of times I was in competitions and the feedback was stop lifting your shoulders. As soon as you start to
Right.
breathe, stop lifting your shoulders. It's like, how do I stop lifting my shoulders? Because that's where I breathe from. No one was helping me. So I spent the whole of my musical career lifting my shoulders because I didn't know how to breathe properly. And then that just got worse and worse and worse. And that's how the panic attacks, I think, got worse as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you can use your breath to get you into a calm state, or you get you into a stress state. That's why it's so powerful. And
Absolutely.
with and that's the problem with the advice of just take a deep breath. So people take a big breath in, and then just let it go. But that relation, like when the inhale is longer than the exhale, it's telling the brain and telling the body to just induce a bit more stress. So going back to like performance, people who do presentations, or if you've just got something where you need to bring a level of performance to it, you're like, all right, backstage or whatever it's going to be, you want to try and calm yourself down, and you just start, I'm going to take a deep breath. It's like,
Yeah.
actually, that's not that good a thing for you to do. If you're going to take a
Yeah.
deep breath, you're actually going to need to take a breath out, which is longer. Try and make it twice as long at least than the breath in, and that helps you calm down. It's not
Yeah.
the other way around.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of, I mean, yeah, you can talk about it having gone through it as well as learn about breathing, what it can do for you and how to actually do it best.
Absolutely. And I think it would do many musicians, it would do them well to learn that sort of breathing where it's slow breath in, longer breath out, learning where to take that breath into and how to control that breath out. I mean, not only is that going to make their playing more powerful because they're potentially breathing from the right place, and then they've got more stamina. I seriously wish I knew that. I mean, I was a strong player, but I think I would have been an even stronger player had I know how to breathe from my center and not my chest. But that's
And
the thing
it's
about. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, it doesn't even have to be about music, right? It can be about
No.
just day to day. If you actually, you rock up to work and you get a pile of shit that just ends up on your desk, you're like, oh crap, that's delaying me from getting through the things I was actually supposed to get through. Stress rises. You're like, I'm
Yes.
probably going to spend longer at the office than I thought I was going to. All that kind of stuff. That automatically, because of that stress hit that you get from seeing that, automatically changes the quality of your breathing. And you might not necessarily notice it, but you'll become a bit more shallow, you'll become a little bit more chest breathing oriented. So you just bring a little bit of awareness, bring a little bit of consciousness back to how you actually breathe. In doing that long, slow breathing, you're going to be a lot calmer, and you're going to open up your mind to be able to take in more information rather than just being fully constricted in that stress state. And you will be able to, kind of plow through a lot more effectively by toggling between that stress and calm state. So we want to use the stress because it's like, oh shit, I've got something to do and I need to do this now. But you want to be alert and calm as well. So you want to have the other side of the equation to that. You want to have that seesaw balance is what you want to have. Is I want to be alert, I want to be stressed. So it's like, it gives me the impetus to do the thing I need to do. But actually, if I'm too stressed, then I get mental block, I get brain fog, I can't, and I get a bit anxious and I can't function. Whereas you bring that stress down by inducing a bit of calm, and you get that balance, and now you're in that beautiful zone where you can call it the flow state, where you've got that stress to drive you forward, but you've got that calm alertness about you, so that you can really focus, pay attention, and get the stuff done.
That's right. And I did not have that at the beginning of this week. I mean, my breathing was off. I couldn't formulate thoughts. And this is exactly what happened to me. It was like, I could not focus. I was forgetting everything. I think I even mentioned to you that I was doing a video for my program, and I said the program name the wrong way round. I mean, that was the stuff. So I've been doing this program for months, and I said the words the wrong way round. It's like, that should have maybe been an indicator that I was a little bit anxious, and I should have maybe just stopped and rested. But it took me a week, and it's fine that it took me a week. But on Friday, I did rest and just calm down, and that was really helpful. So it's amazing what the impact of stress and anxiety can have on you, and I'd forgotten how much of an impact it can have on your system.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, first of all, it's like, stress isn't a bad thing. It's necessary. It's a necessary part of life. We need it to help us move forward. Super necessary. You said it. It's super necessary.
I know. As I was saying it, I was like, he's totally going to pick up on that. So I said it quietly, but he still heard it.
That's excellent. It made a comeback. Super necessary. It's made a comeback.
Necessary.
Yeah, but yeah, it is. It's super necessary because it helps us to kind of focus on the things that need to get done in life. It's just it allows us to adapt. That's what stress does. But the thing is like, when it gets too much for too long, that's when it's a problem. So we need to learn how to adapt back into an equilibrium. And so it's picking, and it's not that you will always be in control of it, because you can't. But what's important is, yeah, exactly. What's important is knowing those indicators. Like, okay, what are the things that I can look to which are telling me that I'm more stressed than I can currently handle? So you gave a couple of good indicators, which was like, I'm boiling the eggs, but there's no eggs that are being boiled.
I'm not losing the plot. I think I might be a bit stressed.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and yeah, so indicators is going to be an important one, like, picking up for yourself. I think, what other examples do you have for yourself, which indicate to you is like, yeah, okay, I'm a bit stressed? I forgot
things that are normally I'm so on the ball with. Like, I forgot to send emails. I was losing focus when I was reading stuff. I just couldn't focus on anything. My breathing was labored. I started to chest breathe, and that's a really big indicator for me that I know something's going on, because I start to get a bit up into my shoulders. And one of the big things for me, and I'm pretty sure that lots of people have this, is that I was waking up early. So, and when I say early, I mean I was waking up for no reason at about 3-4 o'clock, and that's when I know that I am feeling some sort of pressure, or there's some anxiety going on. And when that happened, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday of this last week, I was like, right, okay, you need to reel this in and think about this, because it's starting to affect you. Just come back and dial it down a bit, and do some breathing, and stop frantically trying to do everything. Like, calm down, take a moment.
Yeah, that's important. I think it's just good to get some examples of indicators, so like people listening and watching can go, oh, okay, I get it. Like, these are the kind of things I can look out for if they're not currently aware of the level of stress that they're under. So if you're picking up on those kinds of things, like the quality of your breath, how forgetful are you? Do you feel like, so for me personally, I feel like I'm bouncing around between lots of different thoughts and
Yeah.
constantly like I get into a paralytic state with what I think I need to start doing first. So it's
Okay.
like there's always something that I need to get done, but then I keep thinking, oh, maybe I should do this one, but no, I think I need to work on that one first, but no, maybe it's the other thing.
Okay.
And so I keep bouncing around between all the different things I should be doing and actually not getting anything done. Then I know it's like, okay,
Nothing.
I've given myself too much to do, or I've just, I've overthought this, I'm overthinking this, I'm getting a little bit stressed, and my mind's all over the shop, I'm bouncing around a little bit too much. Then, so I have to, I try and regain focus, and I get rid of things which don't allow me to focus. So the phone is such a
Oh,
huge part of this. Is it's just a distraction machine. It's just it is made,
massive.
it basically distracts you, right? It's like all the crap that's on there. It's mostly social media stuff. Every time I put it away, and I like essentially I just lock it away in my drawer, and then I start to find a flow with my work. That state of focus feels wildly better than looking at my phone and like scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or
Yeah, I
something.
know.
It's just one of those weird things. Is just I can't I can't stop myself from like doing it all the time, but when I do, I realize I've got much more clarity and much more and much better focus. So that can be a thing for like people to potentially pick up on is if you feel like if you notice, because it can actually be difficult to notice as well, like you know you're 20 minutes, 30 minutes into a freaking scroll session, and you just go, oh, it's been 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and I haven't really, like, if you ask
I'm
yourself,
down
like,
a
what have
rabbit
I
hole.
actually got out of this? Yeah, you've gone down a rabbit
Yeah.
hole, but what have I actually got out of this? You know, what's actually useful from having done this? You realize it's actually not a lot.
Zero. I
And
feel
be,
worse for looking at it.
yeah, exactly. And so just put it away, recalibrate, and it takes a little bit of time because that distracted state stays with you until you can start getting some focus back. And for me, that takes about 20 minutes if I just, you know, cut it out in a noiseless environment and then I just start focusing and then I just like, oh, wow. And then 90 minutes go by, I've done something a lot more productive and I haven't realized like 90 minutes went by. So that's another thing. Is like okay, you might be constantly distracted, but you're distracting yourself even more by continuously being on social media or just looking at your phone and not doing anything really productive with that time. Just paying attention to that and just going, what did I actually gain from this? You know, I've looked at 6, 7, 8 profiles. If I go back and like, can I remember like what I was actually doing? If you can't, was it worth it? It's pretty much most of the time it's not. So
No.
that's another one. And yeah, so just like kind of feeling distracted, feeling like like you know your thoughts are bouncing around a little bit, trying to think about doing several things all at once and then not actually doing anything at all. That can be a sign that okay, you've just probably got a little bit too much on your plate, and yeah, and foregoing doing the important things as well. I think
Yes.
is another one where you you feel maybe a little bit overwhelmed by it and you stop doing the things which actually anchor you to having a good quality day and you actually feeling better. So I, I talk about anchors a lot as well. It's just like anchoring activities or doing something which if you've done that, no matter what else happens, you know you've had a better day than you would have if you hadn't done that. And so you're better off the next day because you've done that thing today.
Yeah.
And for me, is like definitely one thing is like some sort of movement. Is if I'm doing that,
Yeah.
then and I try and get it done for me personally. I try and get it done at the beginning of my day
Yeah.
because I clear my mind completely. It's like I know I've taken care of my body, which helps me take care of my mind as well. And then because it's not still there, like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where I'm trying to think, where I'm like, okay, I need to fit this in, but I'm so
Yeah. It's
involved in this thing now.
looming. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like it's looming and it's kind of or it's burdensome now because I've got this thing that I'm doing. I'm in with it, but I'm in the back of my mind. I'm thinking about, oh, I haven't done this really important thing for me, and then that doesn't make you as productive as you'd like to be, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, so just working on the thing that is important, which sets you up to have have an even better day. So even if you're super stressed and you're like, I can't get through it, I can't get through it. It's like, no, you have to. It's like you make that choice to actually do that thing, and once you've done it, you're like, oh, okay, I've done that, and that's an important thing that I've got through, and I've got more. You've got like more energy to be able to
Absolutely.
deal with the rest of it because you've anchored yourself with that thing that's important. And yeah, I think that's another way to kind of pay attention to when that stress is getting to you as well. Is like, oh, I'm not doing the things that are actually important.
Yeah. And going back to this whole idea of getting exercise done, moving, because it makes us feel better, I find that, for me anyway, sometimes I don't have time in the morning to do that. So what I tend to do is actually schedule a time in my diary. Like I'll write it in 3-4 times a week, and it doesn't have to be 3-4 times a week. If you are listening and thinking, well, that's a lot, it can literally be once, twice a week. I will pencil it into my diary. I have, and people are like, pencil? What, you don't have a digital diary? It's like, I have to have a paper diary, not because I'm sad and
You're about
old
100 years
school.
old.
I am 100 years old. It's so that I can remember my week, and it's almost like it kind of embeds it into my brain.
Well, you're onto something there as well because there's a relationship between writing something by
Writing,
hand and
yeah,
memory. So
which is why I
it's
do
not,
it.
yeah, it's not anything to do with tap tap
No,
tap and using your fingers
it's
and thumbs.
it's the
It's
pen to
actually writing something
paper,
down.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I have my week in my mind's eye because I've written it down. So when I write down, I schedule in 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, I'm going to go for a run. It will happen because I've scheduled it in pen to paper, and I'll do it for another day as well.
Nice.
And more often than not, it will happen. So if you don't have that time in the morning, or you're listening to us and you're thinking, I don't have that time, then actually scheduling it in at some point during your day, during your week, is really useful. And it's something I recommend to clients. It's like, it doesn't have to be for long. It can be for 20, 30 minutes. But if you've got it written in, you've kind of blanked it out in your diary, more than likely you'll get it done. So I'm not opposed to doing like having an online calendar, but it's just something that, so I can, we talked about it last week, because I'm so busy, if I don't write it down, you can kiss goodbye to me remembering it. So it is literally as simple as that. Even if I've like typed it out, it won't happen. Whereas when I write it down, I tend to remember everything. So this was a real indicator for me last week. It's like, even though everything was written down, I still forgot stuff. So it just shows the capacity that stress and anxiety can take up. And you just, it's like you can't fit any more into your brain because that overrides everything else. You're constantly like, it's almost like tapping at like, chipping away at something. It's like you just can't focus on anything else. Another thing that I noticed that I do when I am really stressed and anxious is I eat crap. My diet was terrible. But also it was sort of non-existent as well. It's like I wasn't eating. So I'll either eat badly or I won't eat. It's like, and some people go the other way, and it's like, I think it's just, what are your, I can't think of the word, but what happens with you? It's like, I just will probably stop eating and kind of sit there in sort of freeze mode, and so and then I was like, oh, come on, just have some good quality nutrition, stop just eating nothing, and you obviously feel better when you have that. Rather than mainlining coffee, have some water, and mean that to myself, and eat some good food, and it just calms everything down as well.
Yeah. No, you said I think there's like 3 things that I want to go off on that as
Yeah,
well. It's
sure.
like, when you're talking about like scheduling in as well, like, it doesn't have to be long, 20, 30 minutes. It's like, it can
No.
even be 5 minutes. It can
Yes,
even be just
absolutely.
start, just get into the habit of doing that, right?
Yeah,
And just start.
write it.
Because exactly, write it down and just start. If you're stressed out by thinking we're ever got 20 minutes, and it's like, okay,
Yeah,
well, bring it down to 10, bring it
damn.
down to 5, whatever. It doesn't even matter, because with breathing drills, for example, you can do them real time. It's not like you have to go into a quiet room
No.
and just sit there and do that. And you have to you have to be away from other people, like kind of going to the gym, where you have to get your kit ready, and then you have to go somewhere, and then you have to go and then train at that place and get shot. No, it's like with taking care of yourself to help you manage any stressful situation, and like, bring down any anxiety, you can do it real time, right there, right then. You could be on the tube and just working on your breathing pattern. You can be sitting down at your job, working on your breathing pattern. So you could be walking down the street and working on your breathing pattern. If you're like, going to Tesco, you can just normalize your breathing, just relax it. So slow inhale, slow exhale, inhale, long exhale, doing things like that. So it's just a matter of like getting into the habit of scheduling things in, so it doesn't actually have to be a burden. It's like, because you've planned it out. Then the second thing off the back of that is generally shit happens, and then you start to think, oh no, maybe I need to take that out of my diary and I need to focus on something else. But the thing I like to say is like, okay, the option is there, but there's two things. It's like, make it non-negotiable is number one. Is like, just once it's in there, is like, do not let anything get in the way of that thing happening. So it's kind of like you create a fort around that part of your schedule, and in your brain as well. It's just like, you just create this fort around that. You're protecting that time. And but if it starts to creep in, there's cracks in that fort, and like the enemy's trying to get through. Is you just start to ask yourself, is like, okay, well, if I do forego this to do the other thing, am I actually going to feel good for having let this go?
Great.
Generally, the answer is no, because you're like, no, I just did this thing which I said I was going to do, because you made a pact with yourself. Essentially, is like, when you let yourself down like that, you feel even worse. So even though it's like, I feel like it's necessary to forego this thing so I can get this other thing done, because I'm just so busy or whatever it is like, yeah, but the moment you let that go, you're not going to feel good about it, because you feel like you've let yourself down. So that's why just make it non-negotiable. It makes a hell of a lot of difference. I know it does for me, and because you write things down and you just make sure you get that stuff done, I know by extension it works for you in the same way.
Absolutely.
And then
Definitely.
and then there was that the third thing, which was the last thing that you were talking about, which were really see now I've just forgotten what my thing was.
Nutrition. The nutrition and eating.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Nutrition and eating. So when we get stressed, and then our kind of, you can look at it as willpower, discipline for eating well goes down, because basically body's in that stress state, higher cortisol levels is just what that's saying is, hey, just give me energy, and like, give me the simplest form of energy. And now in our world, because everything's so freaking convenient, we can like, the simplest form of energy is basically salty, fatty, sugary foods, and we end up chowing down on those, right? And so it kind of fills that energy need, but then it makes our functioning a lot worse. Feel like crap. So in those moments is when you need to tell yourself, hey, I'm really craving this thing, but actually if I go for more nutrient dense food, i.e. eat my protein, eat my vegetables, get good quality carbohydrates in, just good quality, a little bit of fat in my meal instead, then I'm going to be better off for it as well. So and then once you've done that, and if you still got a little bit of a craving, then just have a little bit of something, just like a much smaller portion than you would have otherwise had, and that's going to serve you better as well. So you don't end up screwing yourself over, not just in terms of your performance, so that the stress and anxiety gets the better of you, and you don't just screw yourself up in terms of performance and your mental capacity. You actually help yourself along on any kind of physical goals you have as well. So if you're trying to get in shape, and you're trying to just improve your mobility, you're trying to improve, say, lower back pain symptoms as well. If you get your nutrition on point and deal with that stress, you're going to do yourself wonders, and you're going to thank yourself for having done that, rather than giving into that need for a sugar hit, for example, in a stressful situation.
It really has an effect on things like pain and inflammation. I think we could talk about that, but I just wanted to go back to something you were saying about doing breathing drills on tubes, because that's one of the places that I get serious panic attacks. And if anyone's listening who has panic attacks, I'm sure there's many people that have had them on tubes, because it's not a particularly pleasant place to be underground, and it's not a great feeling. If there's
Can
something,
you imagine now as well, as like when people
no,
start to
I
travel on
really
tube more as
can't.
well.
I
like
oh
after
no.
after like pandemic stress as well and being around people like in your
Right.
face, people are just going to be
Yeah,
freaking out even more.
exactly. So practicing breathing drills, knowing where to breathe from. Oh my goodness, if I had those tools when I was taking the tube, I don't take the tube that much these days because I live in the country.
In the
I
country.
would. I don't really, though, to be fair, but I do sort of live in the country. If I had those tools and I was traveling on trains and tubes, when I was working in London, when I was doing all that, then I think my life would have been so much easier because, oh my God, that the processing power it took to get on a train and a tube, and in a tube in particular, was phenomenal. I mean, just some days I'd literally miss trains because they were too busy. Like I could not get on a tube or a train if they were too busy. So the constant stress of like, I'm going to be late for work, I can't get on this tube. It was just unbelievable. I mean, I don't know if breathing drills would help me massively if it was really, really busy, but I think I'd be able to handle it a lot better knowing that I could control my breathing and almost like black out to what's happening and just go into that
Yeah.
breathing zone. So for anyone that's listening that does suffer with like maybe claustrophobia and panic attacks, that does have to get on tube and train, oh my goodness, I do know a lot of people look into breathing drills, like go and find someone that can actually teach you the anatomy of breathing because it helps massively.
Yeah. Oh, just someone, one of us.
Well, yes, one of us, but say, yeah, I was even like, well, say you live in Birmingham, and I was like, well, no, because you could still Zoom us, couldn't you? So yes,
Yeah,
us,
exactly.
sorry.
Yeah, we're doing everything online these days as well. We've got online
That's what
programs.
am I
So
thinking? I know. I've just
I'm
done an
training. Yeah,
online class. What am I thinking? Yes, us.
exactly. Yeah, I've got clients in North America as well. It's like we're going global, baby.
That's so cool. That's cool. That's
Yeah,
so good. Yes, I am national. You are international. So yeah, that's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. So exactly, it's just speak to
Come
one
and
of
see
us,
us.
reach out to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Come and see us, reach out to one of us, and we'll be able to help you out for sure with that kind of thing. And
Yeah, it's something that I would want to do more because in particular, I think I mean, I can't speak for men, but I've met quite a few women that really suffer with panic attacks. And if we could just teach them this breathing, I just feel like you'd have a fighting chance of getting on that tube and feeling better.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, 100%. And another interesting thing about anxiety and stress as well is like the relationship to it. This is why I asked you that question earlier on. What is your relationship with anxiety? Because the way we view it helps shape our ability to not just respond to it, but to manage it. All right. So if it's that, so yours is like, oh, it's just that annoying friend who just shows up once in a while. But if it was somebody who's like, oh, I can't, no, this person cannot be here. I don't want anxiety here. Get out of here. Resisting it completely. That resistance that you build up to it leads to greater anxiety, right? So
Yes.
you got anxiety, and you got anxiety about the anxiety. It just gets meta
Yeah.
as well, and that's a big problem. Whereas, especially high performers, and then like there's like studies done on people who like taking exams and stuff like that. The ones who essentially feel like the anxiety is there, and they're like, oh no, my anxiety is here. I'm going to feel worse. My performance is going to suck. This is it. They perform worse on examinations than these like student examinations in like college, I think. Examinations than the ones who are like, oh, I've got anxiety. That probably means I care about the result. Okay, this is just telling me that something's going to, it's going to be a little bit stressful, but it's a helpful indicator that just means that something is important to me. That's one way of looking at it, and those people invariably perform better on their examinations as well. And then you got like pro athletes and stuff like that, the ones who learn to deal with their nerves, and the ones who essentially deal with it where they have a positive relationship with anxiety. It's like, oh, okay, it's here again. I'm gonna use it to fuel my
Use it.
performance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So ones who have that kind of relationship with it, they end up doing a lot better than people who don't, who try and resist anxiety a
Yeah.
lot more. So
Yeah.
if you're in that place where you're like, oh shit, it's coming on, I can't deal with this, I don't want this. Instead, you kind of let your guard down about it and just let it come in, and you just
They
realize
come
it's
in.
yeah, it's not the thing that is bad as you it potentially is not as bad as you think it is. Or maybe you can speak about it with more
Yeah.
experience in like these, like the amount of experience you have in it as well.
Yeah.
But instead of just like trying to push it away, you let it in, and then that allows you to deal with it a lot more effectively. And it creates a more positive relationship with it. So every time it shows up, you're not afraid of it. You're actually in a better position to manage it.
Yeah. I've got loads of experience, definitely, with like trying to resist panic attacks. And have you ever had one? Have you ever had a panic attack? Have you ever had anything like it?
I've had some anxiety uh, uh, when I was uh, when I was working corporate. I started basically building anxiety because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing in my life.
Yeah, I remember you
And then
telling me
when I
about
figured it
this.
out, yeah, then when I figured
Yeah.
it out, I was like, oh, great, everything's great again. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
essentially. So I say, yeah, same thing would happen to me. I'd be like on my way to work, I'd be
Kind of
on the
general
tube,
anxiety. Yeah.
yeah, and then I was just like feeling this really heavy, like I had a hole in my gut, and it
Mm.
was horrible. But yeah, came through it.
That sounds more like a generalized anxiety. Anxiety attacks, it's like they basically come on and it feels like you're dying, pretty much. It's like your heart races. Like it manifests in different ways in different people. But for me, it would be my heart would race, I couldn't breathe, I felt sick, everything felt restricted. And it would often come on when I was enclosed or trapped. And what was really interesting is that over time, it would start to come in things like when I was working in the music industry and things like meetings where I couldn't get out. So it started to become quite restrictive. And I would fight it. And actually, it got so bad at one point that I went to the doctors and they prescribed beta blockers, which are heart stabilizers for people, generally for people that have high blood pressure. But many musicians I know have been put on beta blockers, and I got put on them as well. And it's not a pleasant experience, and it does nothing. It just literally makes you feel numb, but you're still panicking. So it is a really unpleasant experience, and I always used to try and fight it. No, it's not happening. And it just used to make it worse. And then I read, and it can't have been long ago, but I read something like you were just saying, it's like you've got to just lean into it a little bit, let it come, right? And it's almost sounds again counterintuitive to do something like what you want me to let the panic in.
Yeah.
Whoa. But actually, when you just let it ride, because panic attacks don't last that long, they literally last about 20 minutes and it goes up, and then it has to go somewhere and it just starts coming down. And someone's asked me, they're like, what do you think is going to happen? What's the worst that's going to happen? You're healthy. You're not going to have a heart attack. You're going to pass out. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's not too bad, I suppose. I mean, I don't want to pass out, but it's like, that is the worst thing that's going to happen when you have a panic attack. But it's almost like, when you almost like lean into these feelings and let them just wash over you, like they are stressful, they aren't pleasant, but it almost like it stops that slow climb up, and it kind of goes and then you're done. So it almost stops that prolonged experience of having a panic attack, and it's not pleasant, but it generally makes that wave less intense as well. So leading into it is really good advice, which is what you said before, feeling and almost like, allowing it to happen rather than fighting it. That's really helped me. But I would highly recommend therapy for it as well, and things like hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy actually got rid of it for me at one point, but it's a phenomenally expensive therapy. But there were points where I was like, gone. I mean, it's incredibly powerful what it can do. But yeah, it's definitely what I would try and look into.
Yeah, incredible. No, it's been it's been really insightful hearing it from you as well. Like, okay, so you wish you had all that information back then when you really needed it,
Oh
but
my God, yeah,
I
absolutely.
guess
But it's life, isn't it? It's
yeah,
just,
exactly. But I think it's
yeah,
like it's kind of that previous experience also kind of helps lead you down this path that you're on, right? So
yeah,
it's like, all right, well now I know it. It's like, sure, it would have been helpful whenever it was happening before,
yeah.
but this is great. It's like, you know, you can help other people with it.
Exactly. And the reason I left my job, I used to work for a record label in town. And the reason I left is because it was getting really bad. And I was like, something needs to change. And much like you in your corporate job, I was just like, I'm having panic attacks. I feel really anxious. This isn't resonating with me. I was getting panic attacks on trains. So it was all a little bit of everything. And it built up to that point. And it was like, and that's what made me really change everything. Like, that's why I retrained as initially a personal trainer and then as a Pilates teacher. And you're right, it has led me down this road to here. And it is lovely that when you finally learn how to do something and you understand it, it's like, there it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a big difference. And then there's, well, there were a couple of things that we were discussing beforehand about things that we can bring up on the podcast today. And tell me, there's like a list of things that we were like, this will be useful. I think.
I suppose we've kind of discussed it's like feeling the fear and doing things that scares you, doing things that scare you. I suppose we've covered that briefly, but it is like
doing things that scare you is. Yeah, well, there's more to that for sure. Like
absolutely,
Well, in the sense that we're dealing with anxiety is like the thing that scares you is like you want to lean into it.
Yeah.
And going further on that is like that general rule of there's a good general rule to follow is that basically fear is your compass, right? Is that thing that you're putting off or that thing where it's manifesting in a way which underneath all that is fear underlying it. It's like it probably means you need to move forward in that direction.
Yes, absolutely.
You're like, for God's sake, why do I have to go that way? But
you've got to grow.
That's the way to go. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like, and I think obviously for me it was about, I was terrified of teaching a class, and I knew it was going to be a big class, and it was something new that I hadn't done before. And it's like, I could duck out of this and say that I don't want to do it anymore, but what's that going to achieve? It's not going to help me grow, is it?
Well, you'd never be satisfied with yourself if you ever did
I'd be so more than disappointed with myself if I'd gone, I'm not going to do that. That's not me. But and I've done it before in the past where, and like when I booked onto NKT, I suddenly realized that I was actually very out of my depth. NKT, is neurokinetic therapy, which is what you and I are both practitioners in. And we could talk about what it is in a second. But it was just, I suddenly realized that I was really out of my depth, and I very nearly cancelled out a level 1. Very nearly. Like I literally I probably still have the email in my inbox somewhere. Dear David, my son's not very well. I'm really sorry I'm not going to be able to make it. Thanks very much, Jude. Honestly, I still think I have that in my inbox somewhere. Like I very nearly cancelled out of NKT level 1 because I was just like, I was so overwhelmed. And it is that, and I had this little voice going, yeah, but what if it's the best thing that you ever do? What if it's going to like lead you down a path that you didn't realize was going to be so amazing? And it was that little voice, even though I was terrified and I knew that I was going to sit in a room with so many people that had so much more knowledge than me. And I knew it as soon as I sat in the room, I was like, I am the stupidest person here, but I'm going to get through this. It was true. I knew nothing.
So that's really interesting as well. Is like you feel really down about being the stupidest person in the room, but that line of like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So So it's like, it's good. It's good that you felt and maybe were the stupidest person.
I probably was, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I knew I was, because I remember Kathy Dooley, who is the lecturer at NKT and also in Immaculate Dissection, the anatomy courses I've done. She just opened her mouth and said a bunch of words that I didn't understand. And I was literally at the back of the room with my phone, Googling what IAO was, which is internal abdominal oblique. And I couldn't find it. And I was like, shit. And but then I learned it, and it was literally the best thing that I'd ever done. And it led me on so many different paths. But it is interesting that it led me right here. Absolutely. And I was so close to being that scared that I wasn't going to do it. And it is just like, do the thing that scares you, because you just don't know. Even if you fuck up, you just don't know where it's going to lead you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, because essentially, we ended up meeting through NKT as well. So,
right.
It's like, yeah, so then, this wouldn't be happening if that groundwork never got laid with
This
you making that
moment
decision
won't
in the
be
first place to
here.
do it. Yeah,
Absolutely. It's just
exactly. So it's
nuts.
just, yeah, so you just realize like all the potential things, all the things you would have missed out on, which is pretty wild. It's that's hilarious. I remember like my experience of it was like, I think I was following it on like NKT on social media for a little while,
Yeah.
and then I came along and then did my thing of just like plotting myself in the front row of the class, and
I didn't do that. I was at the back.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, teach me, just put it all over me. And yeah, it was great. It was just something. It was one of those things. It was like, yeah, okay, fine. I don't know what it was. It just resonated. It just resonated so hard with me. It was just like,
When I did it, it resonated.
yeah,
Like as soon as Kathy, I was like, oh,
yeah,
amazing. But at first, I was literally looking around the room, going, everyone literally knows more than me. So sorry,
yeah. But
carry on.
the thing is, because like I've assisted a bunch of courses
I know.
since I started doing it, right? And what's amazing to see, so there was my experience of actually having done it, going through the different levels,
Yeah,
then the experience of being a teaching assistant, and that's fun because now you get to observe the room and see where people
yeah,
are at, and you got like 25, 30 people in a room, and like some are everybody's like kind of hyped to be there in a way. I mean, well,
unless
there's
you met me, and
there's
then you would have met me. No.
well, no. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, there's people who like no, I'm on a caveat because there's like obviously there's different kinds of groups of people, but there's the ones who are like, oh, I'm really excited. This is gonna be amazing because I've read some amazing stuff about what NKT can do. Then you got people who are like kind of maybe seasoned practitioners as well. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this looks like it'll be a good thing. And then you got the people who are like, they're there, but they're apprehensive. Like they don't want to believe it can be.
Oh
For some
yeah.
reason, it's like they just don't want to believe that it can be that great or that
Right.
useful. But you're just there and they're just like really apprehensive about taking information. And like by the end of day one, everybody's like freaking drained, and it's just amazing to see because they're
Hmm.
like, whoa, okay, there is something here because we've done a whole bunch of practical sessions on each other, and worked out, okay, well, this is this, and then so people start getting excited about it, but then also get a bit frazzled because they're like, well, this is completely different to what I've done before.
Yeah.
And then by the end of day two, you're just looking around and there's these faces are like, oh, I need to go out to the big wild world to do this now. Oh my god, this is terrifying. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite amazing to see that turnaround,
That.
and like how people respond to it. Even like if they're apprehensive, is like, okay, well, I got something from this. I got something
Yeah.
useful. And yeah, it's amazing to see. It's just amazing to see it from the other side of the room, like
Bet it is.
being an assistant.
And what was really interesting, like even though I was absolutely terrified, and I really felt like the stupidest person in the room, and from an anatomy point, I didn't know anything. I couldn't do that exam if you pay me, but I did get the concept really quickly. Like as soon as Kathy explained it, everyone else was like, what? And I was like, yeah, got it. So it was almost like knowing nothing was really useful because
Yes.
I just got it. Everyone
Yeah.
else was like, what? So I do this and I teal, and I was like, but with me, I was like, and it was almost like because I came at it with absolutely no expectation, and I was a bit rabbit in the headlight, and I was like, I have no idea what I've just walked into. I literally signed up on a whim because I saw it on a forum, and I didn't really research anything. It's like, but now I'm
Right.
here, I'm fucked. But
Yeah.
because I think I'd just come at it without any kind of expectation, it's almost like I got it just like that, and it just made perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
And then I went out in the big wide world and it still made sense, but it was just learning all the tests for me, as you well know, was the hard thing. But the
Yeah.
concept was always there. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But that's the benefit of leaning into the thing that scares you, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm going to be the stupidest person in the room. I am a
Yes.
deer in headlights, and I almost gave up on this. Like, I almost
Yeah.
didn't even show up, almost didn't even turn up. But look at where it's got you.
That's what
And yeah,
happened.
what's
Yeah.
wild, what's wild is like you're talking about IAO, intra-abdominal oblique, internal abdominal oblique, and then you're just like, you didn't know what the hell that was, but it's like if I'm going to ask anyone about this kind of stuff now, it's going to be you. It's like this is what it's about. It's like it's process. It's not just
Yeah.
you're going to walk in, you're supposed to know everything. that's another key element to it as well. I think part of why we fear the thing that we do not know, and the path, maybe not less path less trodden, but it could be you want to go somewhere, or right, the like we're talking about fear being a compass, and like part of the reason you don't want to go there is like, okay, it's the unknown, but it's also you have no idea how to deal with this thing because it's so out of your comfort zone. But that's also the point, right? Because everything's a process. You never just, like what we mentioned last time, like in Matrix, where Trinity gets the information downloaded into her brain on how to fly the helicopter, and then she can do it there and then. It's like that's never how it's going to ever work. It's always the process and what you gain from doing that process, and that arguably is more important than the place you reach of it, and at the end of the day anyway, because by doing that, like you kind of basically showed yourself that it doesn't matter if I don't know anything. Like several years later, here I am, and I love talking about everything to do with the core, and look at the kind of people that I help on a day-to-day basis. It's that process is what we've got to break it down into. Is just like let's just take that first step and then go from there.
Absolutely. And with that as well, it's like doing this podcast, when you asked me, it was like, that's scary. What, you want me to talk for an hour and a half or 2 hours coherently about stuff? Are you sure about that?
Like, gee, do you know what you're getting yourself into?
You have met me. We've talked, right? You do know me. So, but it was like, as soon as you said, like, what do you think? I was like, yes, of course I'm going to do this, because it's going to help, and communication is key. As soon as I got the job with the big platform, it was like, yes. I remember the guy asked me, so does this sound like something you want to do? And I was like, yes, absolutely, bring it. It's like you say yes and then you figure it out, and more often than not, it's going to work out. It's like, yes, it terrifies me, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like if the guy said, do you want a job? And then you're like, hang on, let me check in. Let me see if I'm scared enough. Could you imagine if it's like, oh, I don't feel scared enough? No,
I'm not scared enough. I'm not going to take this.
Yeah.
But it might not come out as that. It might not come out as, oh, let me just check in and am I scared enough? It just might not resonate. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you say you have an interview and actually it's not resonating, it maybe it isn't the right path. And it's not that it has to scare you. I think it just if it is a big deal, it is gonna have some effect on you.
Exactly. It's like, because there's a bunch of things like they can always check the boxes. You know, you tick the boxes and you're like, okay, I've got this list of 10 things, and it's amazing for all those things. But then you really check in with yourself and you're like, but there's something here which doesn't quite add up to, you know, like the check boxes don't matter basically. And so you're umming and ahhing over a decision, trying to be super logical about it. But then really, this is where intuition is quite helpful. Is all right, what does my intuition tell me? You really check in with that, and then you go, oh, right, that thing actually isn't for me. So even though it looks great on paper, can't do it. It's not going to be the right call. Whereas, go on.
I was going to say, like, just on the intuition thing, it was like when I was thinking about this job that I've now got, it was almost like, I'm going to send that email and they're going to get back to me and it's going to happen. It was almost like I'd kind of tracked it in my mind that I knew it was going to happen. It's like I didn't know that you were going to ask me about the podcast at all, but with that in particular, it was like, shall I send that email? Yeah, send that email because something's going to happen with that. And it's almost like, when you get that feeling that you know that something's going to happen and it's going to be good for you, and this is the right thing to do, like with NKT, like with the job that I have now. You just get that feeling, and it's big, it's scary, but it's almost leading me to say, it's like sometimes you've just got to ask the question. You've got to put yourself out there, and you've got to ask, haven't you? Even if it's a no, it doesn't matter. And I truly, because then and then you can go along a different path. So if I hadn't have done NKT and I'd sat in my little world, I actually wouldn't be in the position I am in now, which is far better, right? It's far better. Like in my life in general, I wouldn't be where I am now had I not gone down the NKT route. So it's like, do the things that scare you, because they may be the best thing that you ever do.
Yeah. Generally are. You got better stories to tell when you do things that scare you than if you don't.
And if you play it safe, we would not be talking now had I not done NKT and played it safe. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big one. And there was something else that you brought up, which was several things that you brought up, which would be useful to talk about. So tell me, where do you want to go next instead of?
No, what were you going to bring up? Tell me.
Well, there were quite a few. It's like like one of the things you're talking about was like, what's your motivation, what's your why,
Right. Yes.
And then there was
what drives you. There you go.
Yeah.
Like what drives
And then,
you.
Yeah, and then there was your one of your clients was talking about kind of always feeling like you should be doing more.
Should be doing more. Should be doing more. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be interesting to explore. Why don't we go there?
It was such an interesting conversation because it was like I should do more. It's like this is a busy woman, right?
What was the context there? Like what was the
so it's like I should be doing more movement. And it was like, okay, tell me why. Why do you think you should be doing? Well, because I didn't do that extra walk that I should have done. And it's like, yeah, but you do this with me once a week, and you did something else, and you have a really busy job, and you don't stop moving, and you don't stop moving. So why is it that you think that you should be doing more? It's like I have it all the time. If I don't do enough movement, or if I've done 3 runs a week and a weight session, sometimes I'm like, oh, I should do a hit as well. Right? And it's like, I think even if we're doing enough, we always feel like we should do more. And it's like, why? Why are we always? I speak to so many people, and they're like, oh, I should have done another run, or I should have done that or this, and it's like, when are we going to stop? I think it was just an interesting thought of we're always going to think that we should do more. Even if we're at capacity, we should be doing more. No.
Where do you think it comes from for you?
I think I have a bit of what you have in that I have quite a high level of perfectionism. And I feel like if I'm not busy and doing something the whole time, and I'm not working out, and I almost feel like I haven't lived up to my expectation for the week or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So, I've dropped that run. I've dropped the ball. I haven't done enough. I do think it is that I need to think about it a bit more. Maybe you can help me with it, but it is that I do have a high level of perfectionism, I think. And if I don't get the things done that I say I'm going to do, I'm disappointed with myself.
Sure.
You could maybe look into the psychology of that as well. But I think that, and this week, with everything that was going on and having to teach yesterday, I did rest on Friday, and I was like, no, I am going to take a couple of hours and do this and not do anything. But I feel guilty as well. I often feel quite guilty. If I'd sit and do nothing, where I'm like, oh, you should be doing the washing, or you should be doing this, or you should be doing that. I do get a bit of a guilt complex. You should always be doing something. And it's like, no, because actually resting is doing something, and it's just as important. But I think I speak to so many people that feel like they should be doing something all the time, and they feel guilty when they're not.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's one of those where I guess we're going to explore a little bit now as well, because it's not, I've not like had any detailed thoughts about it. So it'll be interesting to just kind of spew,
let it go.
see what comes out.
Yeah.
And all right, so you're talking about like this perfectionism element, and so then if you haven't done the things you said you're going to do, you're going to feel disappointed, and then you feel guilty if you're not doing the like other things. If you're basically
if I'm sitting on my
resting.
arse, I feel guilty. Like that's a really big thing with me. If I'm sat still watching TV, I get a bit of a guilt complex. Say like in the middle of the day, I just need half an hour. I still feel guilty.
Okay. What? Hmm. Why? Yeah. Why do you think you have to feel guilty? If it's like if it's kind of like if you've put it in that category of things I need to do, and it's like resting is part of that thing, why does it still have to feel like it's guilty?
Such a good question. I don't know. I feel maybe it's because I always feel like I should be doing something proactive and productive. Like there's almost like a panic. For example, with my program, if I'm not doing something on my program every day, I have a little panic. And it's like, why are you panicking? It's not like you've got an end date, but it is almost like maybe it's linked to it's just got to get out so that it starts doing something and generating something. I don't know, there's almost like there's a bit of a panic and anxiety behind it that I should be doing this so that it does something and so I generate something. Yeah, it's hard to try and pull it out, but I think that's what it is. Like I need to be productive so that this happens quickly.
Yeah. Okay. And then, right. Yes, there's a couple of things I'm thinking about there as well. If if you're doing nothing and that nothing is needed, it's a part of your recovery process, whatever it might be. But let's just call it nothing in inverted commas. And it's like, it's not that it is nothing, it's just, it feels like, at the moment, it feels like nothing to you.
Yeah.
So if it feels like you're doing nothing, but what about reframing it? Because it's like, like I said earlier, it's like you're still putting it into that category of things that that you are proactively doing. So you're doing nothing, like proactively is like I'm deliberately doing nothing. And this is an important part of my day in the sense that I'm getting to recover so I can show up better for the other things.
Yes.
Does that work for you? Or have you tried
Yeah,
that?
it definitely helps. Yeah. And I'll give you an example as well that just made me think of something. So before I go to sleep at night, I'll try and read. But recently I've really struggled with reading some of the books that we like to read just because it almost feels a bit too much. Like it's like I don't have the brain capacity to read something scientific. So I've ended up just watching Netflix and then I feel guilty because I'm not reading. Do you know what I mean? So it is, but I know that I need to do that because otherwise there's just too much going on right now. So I have to have that time, but I feel guilty because I'm not reading one. Do you know? So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah. So this is what's interesting about that is like, okay, well you've tried to do the reading and make it work,
Yeah.
but you're just hitting a wall, and so
Yeah.
you're like, you know what, I can't do this. I'm going to switch
Yeah.
away. I'm going to switch off. So what's interesting is like you still tried, and it's not like if you ask yourself the questions like I've tried, could I have tried harder, and the answer is no, then
Yeah.
you switch off and do Netflix. Is like, can you
Yeah.
still feel guilty about that? Should you still feel guilty about that?
No, you shouldn't. I think it is
Actually,
just
no. Should is always the wrong thing. We were talking about that earlier.
yeah.
Should, right? Should.
Yeah.
It's like no,
Should.
that's just
No,
the wrong
should.
thing. But it's so what I mean is like, okay, well now that you've gone through that process of okay, I'm going to try and read this thing. It's actually pretty heavy right now. My brain's not handling it. I've tried. I'm actually not getting through it. I've given myself adequate time to do this. Still not making it work. Fine, forget it. Just drop it. It's too much right now, and tomorrow it'll probably be okay. I'll probably be able to handle it, but right now I can't, and so I'm just going to switch off and do Netflix. So then, that question is, can that appease the guilt? Can that just like wipe it away?
I think it does. I think it's something that's quite ingrained within me. Like we're not just talking about the last few years. It's been something that I've had since childhood that I should always be busy and being conscientious and doing stuff. So I think it's kind of learning that that's okay and remembering that that's okay to take down time and that you don't have to be studying at every single moment of every single day or doing something productive towards your career and your goals. So it is just about bringing it back and going, it is okay. And I'd never, if I was talking to a client, I'd be like, you're super hard on yourself. And it's like, I'm very hard on myself. And it's like, I would never talk to my son or a friend or my clients the way I talk to myself. And I'm very tough on myself. And I think that it is really important to maybe flip that a bit and be a bit more gentle with myself. And that's something that I'm learning to do, but it's I find it quite hard.
Again, just like anything, it's a process, right? Like you just iteratively get better at it little by little, and that's it. I had something the other day as well. It was just like I just had something occur, and I didn't like it. Actually, basically stretched me beyond my current capacity to handle things, and which basically that's just another way of saying I went to territory that I hadn't been to before, and I didn't quite know how to handle it. And then I was just like, "You fucking dickhead!
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, "How'd you not figure that out?" It's like you should know how to handle this thing, and then I started actually laughing at myself because it's like you just become aware of what you're actually doing, and it's like, oh, that's a part of me that still exists because, like, I do like. Me, like people who know me, like my clients, everyone is like, you just like, essentially it's like Mr. Growth mindset. But I'm coming from a place where for years as a kid, for whatever reason, I just had like a really fixed mindset. So I'm still really contending with that, where it's been a challenge for me to feel stupid. It's been a challenge for me to not be smart, it's like, or not be considered smart, or things like that. And so if something happens where I feel like, I feel like what I feel like is kind of irrelevant, because it's like, where did the situation push me to? It pushed me to somewhere which is beyond my current capabilities of handling it. But now that I've been there and I've basically pushed my boundary out a little bit further in terms of the things I can handle, and next time it happens, I'm going to be much better at dealing with it. But but when it happened, there was a part of me which was like, I just should have known how to fucking handle this. Like, why couldn't I handle this? I should know how to deal with this.
Got angry with yourself.
I just got proper angry with myself. I was like so fucking pissed off. And it was, but then, I just realized what was going on. I was like, oh, that's the part of me that wants everything. Like I should know how to handle things. I should know this, I should know that, but I don't, and I got to be okay with it. And so it was pretty like, so I started laughing at myself, which is amazing, because like 1 second I'm angry, and then I realize I'm being angry, and I just start laughing. And that's that's an important thing to do. You just pull yourself out of the scenario, and you just realize what's actually happening. And so, I had to just like, spend a week and a bit just like processing or whatever was going on, like coming up. But yeah, and again, it's like, because it's uncomfortable as well to go through things where you're just not that good at this thing.
Of course.
But it's just like, just embrace it is the thing I keep trying to tell myself. So it's that ability to kind of, like why I think it kind of relates a little bit as well, is just that ability to disassociate the guilt from it. You just
nice.
What you're doing is like, okay, in the example that you gave, what it made me think was, is like, okay, if I can be reasonable with myself for a moment and just say, I've tried reading this thing, and I've given it a bit of time, and I'm going back over pages, I'm not understanding the words that are on the pages right now. Okay, I've put some time into it, and I can reasonably ask myself, is like, have I given everything that I've got? The answer is yes. All right, fuck it. It doesn't matter now. Essentially, it's that idea of, I gave it the best shot and it didn't work out. and when you do that, you can just be completely at ease and completely peace with however something went. It's just like what I've realized with myself is, if I'm doing things and if I've given it my best shot and it hasn't quite worked out, I feel totally fine with that. That's exactly actually how I feel. Like, genuinely,
that's very cool.
Yeah, it's like, I gave it my best shot and it didn't work out. That's cool. That's actually okay. If I have a doubt about, did I give it my best shot, then that's when I start eating myself up about it a little bit. I'm like, oh, why didn't I do that? Why did I not be honest with myself and give the best effort? Because that's the bit that eats me up the most. It's just like not getting to the truth, not getting to the bottom of it. And so if I'm not getting to the truth of it, if I'm not getting to the bottom of it, it just eats me up. And that's the bit that I regret, and that's the bit that I hate, and then start to eat myself up about it. But hey, it's like, when you can honestly say that, zero guilt attached, it's like, you're just very stoic about the whole thing. It's like everything, you're very philosophical about the whole thing. It's just like, it's okay. You don't have to, you don't have to you don't have to feel like you should have done this or you should have done
Yeah.
that. It's just
Should.
it's yeah, it's you don't have to associate any guilt with it. You don't have to feel shameful. Whatever it is, it's just hey, it's in these kinds of
Tried.
scenarios. Yeah, I've tried. I'm giving it my best shot. It didn't work out. So fine, I'll just leave it for another day.
So I have a question for you within that. Do you apply that in your training? Everything that you just said. So like when we're, I don't know, it could be just a workout, or it's when when we're doing wrestling or whatever. Do you come out of training sessions sometimes where you're like, oh, I could have done better, or are you generally quite happy with your performance?
No, there's been so many days like this is where grappling is so it reveals a lot about me to me, right? And this
Right.
is a big reason. This is a big reason why I do it. So
Yeah.
it's funny because what's interesting is like my flatmate, he just does it because he just really enjoys it. It's like it's an activity that he enjoys,
Right.
and whereas of course I enjoy it as well, but it's just there's that aspect of it where it's just revealing a lot about me to myself as well. So it's a very kind of it's a very philosophical, life affirming kind of thing that I do because I associate I get a lot of life lessons out of it, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that's just kind of I guess that's how I'm wired a little bit as well. It's like I just find meaning in certain things as well. But I think
Yeah.
I mean the truth about grappling is like that is what it does is it will it's the most simplified training ground for learning life lessons, as my flatmate likes to put
Absolutely.
it.
I like
And
that.
it's it's a beautiful way to put it. And so I've had plenty of sessions where I've come out of that just being like, that was fucking awful. That was shit. Why? Like you were shit. Why weren't you proactive enough? Why weren't you proactive enough? And that's what I realized. So several things I've realized about it is like I've got quite an agreeable personality. So one of the things I'm working on is actually being more disagreeable.
Oh, really? Because I
Yeah.
have
So
an
like over the
agreeable
years,
personality as well,
yeah,
and I find it so
exactly.
hard. Carry on.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like so you'll know where I'm coming from with that, and just because it doesn't serve you well. It's like there's agreeable because you can be liked or you're likable, but then it gets to a point where you just end up getting yourself walked all over, and
Yes.
that's not great. And it's not to say that I've ever got to that point, but I just realized is like again building awareness. If I was being agreeable and then I started checking in with myself, I was like, you were just agreeable for the sake of being
Yeah.
agreeable. Like you're just like you didn't want to offend anyone, you didn't want to upset anyone.
Don't want any conflict.
Yeah, don't
I
want any
get that.
conflict. Exactly. And then what is
I get that.
grappling? It's fucking conflict, right? so,
Whew. Really is.
so that's basically is me trying. I'm using grappling as a way to become a bit more disagreeable because the thing you got to do is you literally got to impose yourself on another person, otherwise you're going to get fucked up yourself. So I use it to build that side of me. And then, so what I'll realize is on the days where I've gone, that was just shit. I was shit. I was super passive. I wasn't being proactive. That's the thing that bothers me is I'm being passive when I'm trying to work on not being passive. I'm trying to work on being more proactive, and I'm trying to impose myself a little bit more and gain the confidence to impose myself more and more and more. And so when I've done that, like my performance could be the same as when I was passive, but I would walk away from the training session being like, I did great. I was so much better because I was
You put
working
yourself
on,
in there, right?
I put myself in there. But the thing is, because I put myself out there, because I was more proactive, I was way better than when I'm being passive anyway. Because if you're just passive, I'm just like accepting what's coming my way. Whereas if I'm being proactive, I'm actually like trying to work my way through a situation more more effectively. And then that always feels better than just inviting trouble onto you, right? Inviting the
Yeah,
heat onto you. And just then
definitely.
thinking, all right, I'll come out of it. Oh, if this person does this, and then I'm going to do that, and then it's like, no, that's more reactive. It's not responsive. You're not on the front foot. You're always on the back foot. So that is when I've come away from sessions. If I'm being passive and I'm like, okay, that was shit. But if I was proactive, even if I didn't do that well, but because I was trying things, I would feel so much better coming out of a training session. So so it works
Mentally.
in
Yeah.
mentally, exactly. And so it works in that's how it works for me in training as well. And then the other things are like, we're talking about leaning in into the challenge.
Yeah.
For sure. It always hits a point. It's not even grappling, it's just physical training. I was doing kettlebells earlier today, smashing through a kettlebell circuit. And then it gets hard. So that's the bit where you want it. That's where you say, okay, I'm just going to finish now. And then as soon as I start saying that to myself, the other side kicks in, and I just say, no, lean into the challenge. And then I get that extra bit of like,
yeah. What's your word? Is that what it is? Lean in.
Lean in is one, and strong is another.
Nice.
So I just use those because like long-term goal is like always be strong, and then lean in is like do the hard thing, lean into the hard thing, and accept that challenge. So so that's another thing. And then also sometimes with training, like you probably remember that feeling a little bit more, especially being new, and especially as a woman as well. You walk into a grappling class and you're like, everybody's bigger than me and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing and I'm going to get trashed. This is pretty scary, right? But you go in, you do it, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so much better off for having done that and just showing up.
Yeah. It's funny though, I've spent a lot of time in martial art gyms, I guess, over the years, and don't get me wrong, it's whenever you walk into somewhere new, it is scary because everyone knows everyone. Firstly, it is a community, it is a family, and you've got to walk in and interact with people that know each other quite well. So there's that. And even though I knew you, it was still really nerve-wracking walking into wrestling because I'd never done anything like it in my life. But at the same time, and this is where I suppose experience and putting yourself into that environment comes in. It's like, because I've had that experience of, for example, walking into a Thai boxing gym in Thailand, which is a whole different experience. It's almost like you apply those experiences to the experience you are applying at the moment, like you are at hand. So it wasn't as scary as maybe someone that had never walked into a gym would maybe feel, because I'm used to, here we go again. I know this. I've been here before. This is not my first rodeo. I've been in martial arts gyms where everyone knows everyone, and you come up as a new person and you don't know anyone, and generally everyone's lovely. But it is, I like that fear. That fear I love, and learning something new and trying to figure it out and getting it wrong. And something you said earlier made me think about how you were like, no, my session, I know I've done a good session when I've just gone for it and leaned into it. But sometimes I think for me, when I'm learning, I, as a person, need to step back and just let it almost happen to me so that next time I can come in and do what you do. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes I'm almost like, to learn the ropes, I have to get put through my paces and I have to just let stuff happen to me and sit back a little bit so that I can then kind of bring the aggression. And my phrase when I'm trying to do something is just let it go. I have to be able to let it go. Like, stop being so wound up. Stop overthinking. It's just let it go. And generally when I let it go, I can flow. So
let it go, flow.
Let it go, flow. So yeah, I kind of toggle between sitting back and letting things happen to me in training, and then coming forward and letting it go. So I feel like that's important for me as a person, whereas I feel like for you, maybe you don't feel like you've had a good session if you've just let it happen to you, right?
Yeah, basically. If I've just, if I've not felt like I've been proactive.
Yeah.
And just applying my thing, even if I'm going by against somebody who's like 10 times better than me, at least I've like tried something. It's like they're going to handle me, they're going to manhandle me, they're going to ragdoll me, whatever. It doesn't matter. At least I've tried my bit.
And I'll always try, but I think sometimes I like to be a bystander to try and understand. Like I think, and you and I are quite different like that. I remember you in study sessions and stuff at NKT, you'll put yourself in there and try and learn that way, whereas I don't learn like that. I almost have to stand back and just kind of observe the situation and kind of feel safe and comfortable, and then I'll put myself into it. So I think it's different learning styles as well, isn't it? That it's how you try and understand a situation, I think, as well.
Okay, interesting. So it's just basically first idea of I need to feel safe and comfortable, and then throw yourself in.
Yeah. So with
Okay.
sparring in wrestling, it's like at first I was just, okay, you do whatever it is that you're doing to me and I'll try and react to that. And then once I've understood and I've got a bit of muscle memory around what we're doing, then I'm going to go in and I am going to try and win. So I don't know if that's a bad way of looking at it, but it is, I'm going to try and get you down. So, but it's when I understand and I feel safe and comfortable to do that, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, yeah, it's interesting how people have different ways of approaching a similar situation as
Learning
well, but
styles.
yeah, but like getting the same outcome from it as well. Because what were we talking about? I think yeah, what was interesting was with my flatmate, we were talking about like intrinsic and extrinsic motivation and like
Yeah.
goals and stuff. And what was interesting is for me, like the long-term goal is any long-term goal is going to be more intrinsically motivated. Like I need to have that intrinsic motivation to do the thing, and that's the thing that keeps me on the path. Is like, okay, it doesn't matter what the immediate result is. It's about what this means in 3 years, 5 years time, kind of thing, right? And so, for example, that's what strong means to me. Is like it's not just about being strong now. It's about being strong in the future. It's like, okay, I don't have to be strong now, but it's about what is strong. Like, am I strong in 3 years and 5 years? And
Yeah.
just keep. I'm keep doing the thing that gets me there, and it's like they're kind of intrinsically driven. And what was interesting is there was a flip. There was the other way around. It's like the thing to get them started needs to be intrinsically driven, but then if there's something long term attached to it, there needs to be something extrinsic. Like there needs to be something external attached to it. Is like if it was if it was like, okay, I'm going to start this career because I get a lot out of it. It's like, very intrinsically driven. But then in 5 years' time, it's got to get me, it's got to be making me £100,000 a year, whatever it is.
Right.
So then there's that external drive for it. And I thought, like, that was interesting because, we're doing the same thing, is we're striving in the same way, but the way we view our outcome, our output, and our efforts is kind of flipped.
Right.
So this, which is really interesting. And again, it wasn't like so it was just cool to see. It's like, oh, your brain works differently in this to mine. And the thing is, that's like there's a bit of a subjective thing there as well. It's not like because like we've talked about it personally as well, but just when you're on the road to a goal, like you have to subjectively introduce reward along the way, right? You can't just
Intrinsically. Yeah.
exactly, and it's a subjective thing. It's like you can reward, like if you're writing a book and you got 300 pages that you got to fill,
Yeah.
and every time you write 500 words, you're like, okay, I got 500 words today. This is great. This is amazing. This is a reward, and you're going to reward yourself for it. Like intrinsically, you're just going to tell yourself you're doing a good job. Whereas if you don't do that, then it just makes the process laborious, and it makes it a lot more difficult that you'll even get to writing that book, right? And so it's a subjective thing that you introduce into the process to make sure that you achieve what you want to achieve. And so the way we viewed it was like the same process, the same outcome is like subjectively we viewed it in a different way, but it helped us to achieve the thing in the same way. But just it's like the outcome would have been
Different
the same.
perspectives, isn't it?
Yeah, it's but it's interesting, and it's like so it's not necessarily okay. There's a right process, but it doesn't necessarily like. But how you view it is different. Can be different.
Yeah.
And whatever helps you essentially get there and achieve it.
Absolutely. I think everyone's going to be different as well. Everyone's going to be driven by different things. And this kind of takes us on to what drives you, doesn't it? For me, a lot of my drive comes from things like necessity. It's like I have to do certain things because I need this, and this. But then in the bigger picture, things that drive me is that I want to get a message out there, and I want to teach and give the knowledge I have to people so that they can then have that knowledge and take it elsewhere. and push it. It's like I said to you yesterday, I want to push this knowledge out to the masses so that people can own and feel powerful about their bodies. And that's what drives me. It's like I want people to gain knowledge and have that knowledge that I have so that they can feel better in their bodies. It's like in terms of this job, that's what drives me. And I want to be a good role model. It's like one of the reasons, like everyone's like, oh wow, you know, your diet's so good and you're so good at exercise. It's like I like to set an example, you know, whether we like it or not, we're public figures in some way or another. And I don't think I would be doing anyone a good deal or myself justice if I was not looking after my body. So I feel like it's important that I'm a good role model to anyone that I teach or people that know me or family or my child. Just that's an important thing for me. So that's what drives me as well, to be the best that I can be. So it's a lot of different things. And I guess that's what motivates me. It's like, yeah, I could stay at being a Pilates teacher and I could teach and be fully booked and that's great. But what about this? And what about if we could get that message there? And what about if we could reach more people? And it's, I don't want to be famous or anything like that. I have zero interest in that. But if I can get that message out, great. That's really what I'm interested in.
Yeah, 100%. And what was it internally for you? Like, okay, so there's I want to be a good role model, but also what about for yourself?
I think, so internally, it's just knowing that I've learned the things that I've wanted to learn, and that I've, or for example, physically, that I'm the strongest that I could be. It's like I always enjoy pushing myself so that I can be the best version of myself. It's like, where do I want to, not necessarily where do I want to be next year or I want to be running a marathon, but it's like, am I still injury free? Am I the best I can be in terms of my body weight and my strength and to keep me injury free and, you know, prolong my life essentially. So that's, I guess, my intrinsic motivation. But it's just that I'm doing myself justice in that I am learning more and I'm not staying static and stagnant. I think that's really important for me, that I continually learn so that I inspire myself. Otherwise it just gets boring, I think, doesn't it? It's like if you're teaching the same thing, and this is always my worry. It's my worry with yesterday. I was teaching lots of people. It's like, is this good enough? Have I taught well enough so that these people understand the message that I'm trying to convey? Is there something I could be doing better? So I got online yesterday and I was like, is there anything else that I could maybe give as an addition to help these people understand what I'm trying to put across? So I will always try and do more.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh God, here we go. But in I suppose maybe healthy or not healthy, it's like I always want to make sure that I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's there's damn it, I kind of blanked, but it's just like
there was a lot there. Sorry,
but it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it's it's like the learning thing, the doing yourself justice, and essentially this is what this podcast is about, right? It's like, you know, how do you go about fulfilling your potential? And if you're not doing that, then you're not doing yourself justice. If you're not aiming to do that, if you're not on that path to do that, it's like, and that can be in any way that you want, because everybody I think there's a lot of misconceptions around. It's like, you know, go for your potential, and it's like you always aim high, and it's like, yeah, but what is that for you? I'm not talking about
where's
being
your
the
benchmark?
Exactly. It's like, I'm not talking about like, you know, be the Rock or something. You know, don't be that person, or like whoever, like, I don't know, is like as so insularly dedicated to something like an Olympic athlete might be, or whatever. It's like, it doesn't have to be at the level. It's like, what is it for you? What is it for you where you're like, I am on that path to my potential? Because the thing is like, you just never, I would say it's one of the certainties of life. I don't think you're ever going to be happy if you're not aiming for your potential.
No,
and
exactly.
You're not going to, fulfilled is the right word, because actually trying to aim for your potential is going to be you're not always going to be happy doing it, because you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, I've got to do things that are really
But that's
hard.
the strain and the struggle, and that's what makes you appreciate it at the end as well, I think. There is no end, but you know what I mean. So
yeah, exactly.
it's never an end.
It's like, exactly. It's like, yeah, it's just ends when you die. And like, when you're about to die, I was like, yeah, I did everything I could. Yeah, I'm pretty cool with it. That's it. Take me now. I'm good.
Yeah, I can go now. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than, oh shit, I did.
God damn it, I didn't do
Yeah.
that. I would
Yeah,
rather
exactly.
have regrets about the things that I did do than the things that I didn't do, right? It's that, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it's,
What drives you? What drives you?
drives
What's
me.
your motivation?
It's just, I just love learning. That's a big thing for me.
We both do,
I think I love learning about what it is to be a human being, and what it is, the human condition. And it's one of those things that we will never get to the bottom of, because it's like, we're studying ourselves essentially,
And it's going to change as people study more, right?
Yeah, and it's, I just love that. I love it, and the more I delve into it, the more I got to a stage. That's when I basically decided to become a personal trainer. Is like, a mate of mine asked me a good question when I was thinking about switching over. He was like, so you're basically thinking you can teach other people to exercise? And I was like, oh yeah, it's teaching, isn't it? Didn't like at the time when you were just like making a decision to realize that this is what I'm actually getting myself into. And then obviously it turns out to be, at least the way I view it, is a hell of a lot more than just exercising and teaching people how to exercise. It's teaching people how to live a healthy, fulfilling life, essentially. And so, it's just that idea of, it was something that I was always interested in, and I realized I got to a stage where I could help other people do that. And then, just ran down that path. And so for me, it's like learning about that kind of stuff. I just have a voracious appetite for it. So that's what drives me, is just I want to keep learning it, and crucially just apply that thing that I learned, because when it's not applied knowledge, it's just dormant, and then it dies and it fades.
Stagnant,
So, yeah. And this is one of the things I love about the job that we do, is that I could literally like read about something, and then a few days later my clients ask me a question about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I was just like,
I love the way that happens as well.
Yeah, just
doesn't
like
it always
every
happen?
Time. Pretty much like every time. It's like, oh yeah, this is perfect. And then just like kind of breaking your own limits, and like breaking past limitations that you have, and it's essentially like we will place it on ourselves is the issue. And so I like essentially trying to achieve my potential and aiming for that, and helping other people do the same.
Amazing.
And just breaking through limits. So I think the biggest driver is just really loving learning, and then being able to help other people with that information.
And that's a beautiful thing, really is.
Yeah. And it's not just information, it's transformation. Is I use that information to transform, because information is useless. Like I said, it's not applied knowledge.
Yeah.
So it
transforms you, and it transforms the people that you teach as well, and everyone around you.
Exactly. And then what you said about fame is just interesting to me as well. As like you're like, I would never want to be famous. So I'm curious about why that is, because fame is just something. It's a curious thing. But, I'm wondering why.
It may have to be. I'll give you a little bit of it, but I don't. Where do I start? So my brother always wanted to be famous, and he is a phenomenal musician. And I could never quite understand that, because what comes with fame is people think.
Was that the first thing he wanted? It was like, I want to be famous before actually anything else, right?
Yeah, I think, around the time that he started to know that he was actually a very good musician, he always wanted to be famous. And I could never understand that, because what comes with fame is that people think that they own you in a way, and that they have access to you. And I suppose it's the negativity around it as well. It's like, I don't know, I just don't want to be that well known that you can't walk down the street and crack on with your day. And it's like, you're always performing, you're always on, and you're always having to base your life around the fact that it's like you're constantly on stage. And I would never ever want that. and you know, and I have it to not an extent. I'm not famous in any way, shape, or form, but when you are a public figure locally, like I'm a Pilates teacher that's well known in this area, I don't know. It's like you have to behave a certain way. Not that I wouldn't anyway, but it's like you can't get angry. You can't have a down day. You can't have an off day. And I'm not saying that people know me, but there is a level of people do know who I am at certain points, because I used to teach in a local high street, and I used to teach quite a lot of people. And you'd walk down the high street and you'd see at least 5 of them. So you have to, it's like you've always got to be on. You've always got to be behaving. Not that I don't behave, but it's like you cannot have an off day. And there's other stuff around it, which, pardon?
You wild child.
Wild child, yeah. And I don't know. And it's just the way the public perceive famous people as well. It's like everyone's got an opinion. And I would find that phenomenally hard. I mean, I'm hard on myself, let alone to have thousands of people be hard on me as well.
Yeah.
I don't think I could handle that. But yeah, that's why I'd find it phenomenally stressful. You?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Fame is just weird to me.
It is weird.
It's like, it's that thing of, people feel like, people feel like they own you. And or entitled to your time. Is like,
yes.
It's just one of those things that I think you can never fully understand. Is like, there's many things like that, but especially with fame, you could never fully understand it until you actually get it yourself. And then, like, I've had like little modicums of it every now and then.
Have you?
I just remember somebody who seen me do some stuff on Instagram once, and I just came across him, and I didn't know who this person was. And this was actually at a wrestling class, and they were like, "I feel like I know you." I'm like, "Oh, cool. I mean, yeah, sure. I don't know you, but maybe, I don't know." He's like, "Who else do you know who has this handsome face?" Exactly. He's like, "Really?" I was like, "That guy, must be a really good-looking guy." So he was like, "I don't know, I can't place you." And then like half an hour later,
that's not it.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, he butters, bruv.
No, buttis, not butters.
Is it? It's different.
Butt his face, right? It's not butter her face. Butter her face, butter face, butter his face. Do you not know what it actually means? What butters means?
You're butters.
Yeah. But do you know what it means? Do you know what the actual term is?
Yeah, you're ugly.
Yeah, but do you know how it like manifests? You know how?
Oh, really? You're going to drop some etymology on me? Go on, hit me up.
Can I say it on the podcast, do we reckon?
Of course.
It's just,
yeah,
so like, butters is basically everything but her face.
Right.
Did you not know that?
No, I know. I've heard the phrase before. I just didn't associate it with butters. It's kind of like when you go breakfast and then you have it explained to you that it means to break your fast. You're like, oh yeah, of course that's what it means.
So it wouldn't be, you'd be butters, not butters.
Oh, right. That's why you said that. I was like, what are you saying, Jude? You're
what
not
are you
making
about? Yeah, that's why you'd be butters, not butters.
Yeah, exactly. A nice little detour of the story, but I think it was where I got with it. Yeah, was
sorry.
Oh yeah, they were like, half an hour later, they just came back to me. It was like, oh yeah, no, you did this thing on Instagram, and I did one of the exercises that you were saying, and it was really cool. It really helped me out, and I was like, oh shit, this is so random. Yeah, exactly. That's another one. Get in every podcast. I was like, I can't believe you saw that. All right, amazing. This is cool.
It was great.
And it was just really strange. It was like, somebody who knows you, but you don't know them. It was like they've seen you around, they've seen your face, and I was like, that is weird.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, first of all, it's great. Like, whatever I put out there was helpful to this person.
Super cool.
But then it's like, you're walking around and you don't know these people, but like if you were super famous, you're just walking around, but you can't trust who or what you're looking at because everybody thinks they know you, and you don't know anyone, and they're going to be looking at you in a certain way. And you're like, oh, why are they looking at me like they know me? Oh, because they do know me, but I don't know them. How fucking weird is that?
It's so weird. Yeah,
that would
exactly.
be so strange. And then just stuff like that. Just stuff like that is weird. The shit that comes with it. Yeah, I guess like people feeling entitled to you. In a way, it's like you invite that into your life as well, because if what you do relies on you being famous, then people make you, essentially. I mean, everybody is made by people. There's no getting away from that. We are made by people. You know, we have
Yes, we
clients,
are.
and so
We are.
we only exist in the line of work that we do because we have people buying into us. So on
Mm-hmm.
that scale, you've got millions of people buying into you,
Yeah.
and so you've got this duty in a way to appease that and appease them, and and how do you balance that? You know, that's the crazy thing. Like, what's the balancing act that you got to pull off there?
Don't know.
And yeah, it's wild. It's wild. There's just so many things about it which are just crazy and wild, and it's like, yeah, to that extent,
Difficult.
yeah,
I know.
no thanks. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
No.
exactly. That's good. All right, should we call it
Cool.
there? I think
We shall.
we had a solid discussion there about some things.
Definitely.
That was wicked. I hope everybody tuning in has really enjoyed that this week. We really enjoyed the conversation. So yeah, tell us what you think about it as well. Follow us on Instagram at Evolve, Achieve, Thrive, and send us your comments. We'd love to hear what you guys are thinking about what's going on, and show us your support. If you're enjoying the conversation, please just jump in on whichever podcast provider you use to listen to the podcast. Where it could be Apple, it could be Spotify, it could be Podcast Addict. Castbox, whatever it is, just subscribe to the show and hit subscribe, and then you'll get the regular updates for the episodes. And yeah, please leave a rating and review about the show as well. It gives us, it really helps us out to get the show out there as well, so more people can hear it and get more credibility as well. And so if you're really enjoying it, please just drop us a 5-star rating and review, and we'd love that, and we really appreciate it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time.
Bye.